Well, sorry about that, Divines. Oh, I'm so sorry. This was a video that I wanted to play for you guys. It's in Spanish. It's a very, very powerful song. It's actually from a ministry in Central America. And I forgot that when I recorded this, that the subtitles didn't record so you can see what the lyrics are to this song. But it's a very powerful song. I mean, so I will try and re-record it with the subtitles. It will literally put the hair on the back of your neck standing up because you will be consumed with Father's Spirit in that song. The lyrics come from the angels. The angels gave this ministry very specific lyrics to put into this song, and it is so profound. You will be touched. So I'm sorry that I didn't do my due diligence. I didn't think about that beforehand. So I will cue that back up next time itself. But we'll have a different video to play throughout the night anyways. We've got some of our wonderful team members that are showing up in the back green room right now. So we're going to have an amazing show tonight. All right. We're going to be discussing what took place last night, the aftermath. All right. And I think you guys are going to be a little bit more joyful going forward because there is a plan. There's a great plan moving forward in what is taking place. You know, I know many of you kind of felt like your heart sunk when the commander-in-chief said what he said last night, but for good purpose. And we're going to cover that pretty extensively tonight. And we're going to have some great perspective from our beautiful divine families from American in Action as well. So anyways, I want to say thank you, everybody, for tuning in here at the Truth Truther Show at the Sovereign Redneck Renegade Radio. And I want to give a shout out to our moderators, CV's daughter, as well. We have Sam, does an amazing job too. We got Kathy Pearl as well. Cookie is no longer moderating for us at the moment. She has some family issues that she's taking care of. And so I'm hoping that somewhere down the road, she'll rejoin our family again, but we miss her as well. But I've been chomping at the bit to do this show tonight with this team here because you guys, as you always know, every time we have this amazing team on, it's a very spiritual evening nonetheless. We always have great nuggets of wisdom that's imparted upon us. And tonight will be no different. I promise you guys that. So, without further ado, let's bring in Brother Cohen. How you doing, Brother Cohen?
Good evening. I am well. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing excellent. Excellent.
I have to reiterate about your monitors. CV's daughter has been helping me out with my channel, and she's been posting some amazing content. So you've got a great team there, and I really appreciate what they do and the content that they add, and just the family that is created in this space. What an amazing treasure to have this in such a time as this.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Well, I'm glad that you're here with us again tonight. So let's bring in our other team here. We'll bring in the divine Christo, brother.
Hey. How are you?
Good.
Blessings to all. This is Buffalo Bill, child of God, Christo.
I love it.
I love it.
And Cohen, you're my hero. I love what you're doing. Can you tell that Cohen, even in his energy, has changed so dramatically because he's empowering himself, standing as a child of God in the midst of anyone, sheriff, judge, provost, officer, police guy. Good for you, Cohen. Good. That's Absolutely. Awesome. Makes my heart very, very happy.
I had such an amazing time with Jason and Ananda, the team last night. They were sitting around the fire and they were sharing strategy.
Let's bring them on.
Let's get them in. Hey,
there they are.
Hey, like the Brady Bunch.
It is the Brady Bunch. Yeah, we were around the campfire last night with Cohen and virtually, and just strategizing and powwowing. And I mean, it's exhilarating when you have a team looking at strategy. You know that your friends have your back and you're not alone in this, because sometimes it looks so bleak. You're looking out, you're like, wow, these processes are daunting, but they don't have to be. And then once you get the hang of it, you realize that those 60 pages of documents, you can condense them down into 1, 2, or 3 pagers. Say what you need to say, get her done, have some friends who help you to edit and, check for your blind spots and make sure you're using proper law language. But it's really powerful. And you can see he's just smiling like all the way.
And yeah, it's amazing.
So amazing. Yeah.
When you speak the truth, when you write the truth, God is right here with you. And it's like you're in the kingdom of heaven. And that is absolute blissful joy. Is it not, Cohen?
Oh, my goodness. Yes.
Exactly. Before we go on, I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention that it's extremely important for all of us to be active in all the information, all the wisdom, all the support we have. And I'll tell you what I do. My day consists of course, doing my business that I have, but every chance I get, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, I'm on every social media telling the truth. And it's so much fun because now I can say Biden is a communist. He is destroying America. And America, you got to stand up to this tyranny. Those words, I put that all over Twitter. And I'm not in Twitter jail. I don't think Twitter jail exists anymore.
Nope.
Thank you, Elon. Oh my God. So, and then you got John Voight, but we got to, and then also we contact the sheriffs. We meet with the sheriffs. Yeah, they're in commerce right now. They're in Admiralty law, but we're educating them. Then we had another guy actually got stopped from the policy enforcers, gave him a ticket, citation, felony, all kinds of things because he didn't have his plates on, he didn't have a license, he didn't have a registration, he didn't have insurance. Luckily, they didn't arrest him. They just gave him citation. The next day, it was closed because of what he did. And I can now. I told them. And I shared the rest of the family. We can't stop there. When that happens and we have a win, we have to send it to the arresting officer, to the officer that cited, and let him see that it's gone. Why is it gone? It's a part of education. I know for a fact that if we told every law enforcement, every sheriff, and explained everything to them, I'd say about 30 to 40% would come on our side and be active. We have to educate them as a friend. We got to do that. It's in the Bible telling us to share the wisdom that we have. And because if we just keep it to ourselves, nothing gets done. So please, audience, now the next time we have a show, I want to hear from the audience and find out what they did and the wins they had. Because when we share our wins with each other, that inspires us. They go, oh my God, it is working. Oh my God, it does work. That's so important for our own attitude, our own presence. And when we have to do documents administratively with the court, we're going to have all that background knowing that you are continuing the success. You are continuing living in the Republic. You are continue branching and sprouting the kingdom of heaven. It's our livelihood. It's our dharma, karma to do this. Please do this. I beg of you. Thank you so much.
Yes. Jason, go ahead, brother.
I want to add the most important thing that has been so successful for Cohen, and I will say his documents, his letters are beautifully written, like poetry. But the most important thing is the essence from which the words were formed into the physical. substance over form. In plain English, he spoke from his heart. He spoke the truth, and it was coming from love. And as a result of that, that's the higher jurisdiction. That's the highest frequency. And he is experiencing wins because he's knowing more and more who he is. And the law is responding. And I'm talking not only the law of Babylon, I'm talking he's in operation of universal law of love. And it's the substance over the form, speaking directly from his heart and then bridging that gap with any of the language that he's using. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. And it's such a bravo, because this is the kingdom of heaven living. This is God's law, which is the highest law. It was written in the hearts of all men. When you live within the law, when you are ethical, when you keep your word and you do no harm, the law is there to protect you. When you are outside of the law, you're said to be an outlaw, and the law is not there to protect you. So there can be a bounty on your head. So one who comes to equity, one who wants to receive equity, equity defined meaning fairness. If you want to receive fairness, you have to give fairness. And therefore it said, to do equity, one must come with clean hands. Your side of the street must be clean. If you're living outside of the law, this is where repentance comes in. And it's written in the Bible. And when we recognize our errors and we're willing to correct our errors and change our ways, that's when we evolve spiritually. That's when we're forgiven, and we forgive ourselves, we forgive all others, and we walk in God's grace. We're flawed, right? We are flawed. But if we recognize, really own our side of the street, that's kingdom of heaven living. That's self-responsibility. And that's highly ethical living. So that's why the law is protecting Cohen, because he is within the law. The law will protect you if you live within it. That's the law of love.
Absolutely. You're muted.
Christo, unmute.
Hi.
There you
Plus,
go.
he's having fun doing it, but he's having fun standing, and in no matter who he's talking to. And so that's extremely important, to have fun. This is fun. To tell the truth, to live the truth, to stand. It takes courage to stand, especially in the beginning. You're going, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? But then you get victory after victory after victory, because the truth, it's a maxim of law. The highest jurisdiction wins out, and they have to pay attention to it. Otherwise, they'll be in breach of trust. And so with that, it actually becomes fun. Do you know that? And Ananda started this. It was like crazy. We send any trustee, don't forget the judge is a trustee. We send any trustee that we're dealing with, we send them Thanksgiving cards. We send them flowers. We send them everything. Thank you so much for doing a great job. I mean, how can they be pissed off at us? They can't, because we treat them so well.
Yeah.
We have to
we
do that.
We send them appreciation letters, little cards with little hearts, and I hear some clicking in the background. I don't know if that's Jay, if you're clicking. But anyway, it's magic.
I have a couple squirrels over here, and I fed them some nuts.
Squirrels eating nuts?
I have some squirrels over here. I felt bad for them, so I'm feeding them walnuts.
That's cute. I could totally see you doing that, and I can see them really enjoying that. Jay, are you clicking? Is that you?
That's Jay thinking.
That's Jay thinking.
That's me
There's
thinking.
a lot going on in there, let me tell you.
Those wheels are turning.
The universe, that's the sound of the universe when I think.
Well, you jest,
it's
but
equivalent to squirrels eating nuts.
yeah.
My thinking.
You jest, but I was just telling ELIAS before the show started about some of the things that Jason was contributing last night as we had this strategy session around the fire telephonically. And I'm over here taking notes as he's talking, and I feel like I'm this warrior with a spear, and I'm trying to figure out how to take back our hunting lands. And Jason just points at one of the rocks, which resembles, the stronghold we're going after. And he goes, we could just do an airstrike. And it's like, airstrike? I'm holding my spear, and he drops this strategy that just not only opens up a practical application, but it opens up this awareness of a capability of who I am in a way that it's taken me a good 24 hours to just like integrate some of the things that he added, because it was strategy, but then it also opened up doors of recognizing even more of who I am, and as a child of God, having this. Now, sometimes you don't know who you are until you realize that you have this tool that can be used, and then you realize, wait a second, I am the wielder of this tool. I'm the wielder of this sword, this weapon. And so, I've had a wild day.
Yeah, that's awesome. And every
I
time you
love
do
that.
something, or any one of us does anything, we are chipping away at commerce. We're chipping away at the tyranny. Every win we have, every communication we have, and just imagine if 1 million, 2 million, 10 million every day are doing the same thing. This tyranny disappears. But we must be in action. We must educate and communicate and stand. That's the most important thing. And of course, realize who you are and ready for the opportunity.
Yeah, Christo, you had me laughing. I think it was this morning or yesterday. You were saying, help me out if I don't say it right. You said something like, so we need to be Americans in action, not Americans inactive.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Right?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Because each one, every single time one of us has a conversation just saying, hey, did you know that we're operating under constitutional law again? People are like, what? I mean, a letter just saying what's on your heart to the sheriff. That's great. To the county commissioners, speak to your mayor. Go on social media, just do a shout out, do like a homemade video and just shout out like, hey, we are free people and we were born this way. And this other stuff is nonsense. So the more truth we speak, we're like Project Mockingbird, but we're just doing it through social media. And we can use propaganda. We can use the tools for the light. They use it for nefarious purposes, but we can use these tools for goodness.
As a matter of fact,
for community.
Ananda, if you remember, we wrote a letter to the chief of police and say, we're just going to let you know, because we love what you're doing, that this county is going constitutional and we're giving you a heads up. So we say things like that, and it's got to go, what the heck's going on here? Because we're not the only ones doing that. We're sharing that information with our friends, and our friends are doing the same thing. Now they're getting it from 10, 15, 20 people, 30 people, and it'll go on. It's very important to do that. The inspiration is, look at the video. Probably ML has this video of the 1 million people that went into the streets in Brazil after they stole the election and put a communist in there, and the people didn't stand for it. Where's the Arizonian people stealing the election from Kerry Lake, who won probably by at least 5% more?
Yep.
What's going on? If we don't stand and get into action, we're allowing the tyranny to take place, the cheating to take place. Arizona people, get together, crowd it, go there, tell them you're not standing for this cheating, especially in Maricopa County.
There you go. Well, that's why I'm going to be active, because I told everybody that I'm going to wait 2 weeks after the elections to see how things might trickle out. Well, I don't have to do that, especially in light of what Trump announced last night. So I already told Cohen I'm going to do this, and so I'm going to wrangle him into helping me with this as well. So in March, I'm going to start preparing a conference or a convention. It'll be Restore the American Covenant. You guys are going to play a vital role in this, because I want every person that's going to attend this event to understand what it means to be sovereign the steps to become sovereign in every possible way, because this is the world that we're going into. This is the transition that is taking place. And I know a lot of people went sideways last night and today and everything else like that. And that's because they're limited in their thinking. And for some reason, their gifted discernment right now is shut off because they're waiting for other people to tell them what's going on, how did it happen, why did it happen, instead of them seeing, hearing what took place last night. And it was a very significant thing. I know everybody thought, oh my God, he's just going to run for president. That's all we wrote. I mean, he was supposed to, that's because you had a bunch of friggin' truthers who were out there since Trump made the announcement he was going to speak tonight, last Monday, that everybody in the truther community, figureheads, were telling their followers, oh, this is it. He's going to talk about Jasara. He's going to talk about Nasara. He's going to talk about all of these things. JFK Jr. is going to come out. All these fantastical hopium events. And I told people from the very beginning, that's not what's going to happen, guys. He's going to announce he's running, but you guys didn't hear what he said. He didn't say anything he was running in 2024 either. That didn't come out of his mouth. He said some bombs last night. It's an ongoing operation, military operation. If you look, I have a video to show. If you look, when he filed to run for president in 2015, it's very clear on there. It says Donald John Trump Inc. is running. He was running for an incorporation at that time. Now the new filing shows him he's President Donald Trump, and there's no incorporation. It shows that the continuation of his commander-in-chief and presidency has stayed its course. It hasn't changed. That's the point. So I shared a screenshot from Vincent Kennedy 3 nights ago and posted on my main wall on Telegram. And for those individuals that don't know who Vincent Kennedy is, JFK Jr. I posted that up there because he said, why are you guys concerned about voting in 2024? I'm going to be voting in 2023. That's 45 days from now. We're going to be in 2023 in a month and a half. He dropped the bomb. Things are about ready to pick up, and it's not going to be sunshine, lollipops, and unicorn farts like everybody thinks it's going to be, because Trump even said the next 2 months, it's going to be rough. We're going to have to deal with some issues. Well, of course you are. When you're draining the swamp, you have remnants that are remaining. You got to get rid of those last remnants in order to be able to do the things that you need to do, first and foremost. So, yes, last night was an amazing night, and I'm grateful that there are truthers out there that didn't have their heads up their yahoos, and they saw what was really taking place in real time, because we're talking about timeline wars. I've said this, we are in timeline war operations. People need to start learning to understand what timeline mechanics and quantum mechanics are and how they affect what is happening with us right now. This is what's going on. Quit listening to these friggin' truthers who keep filling you a bunch of hopium, because I'm telling you guys, I know what I'm talking about in military operations, tactical operations. Cohen knows too. You never, ever, ever, ever let your enemy know what you're about ready to do. That would be absurd for Trump, the White Hats, whatever you want to call them, to sit there and broadcast their next move and get everybody rallied up about what's about ready to happen. That's not how this works. So people need to start really being critical and thinking critically and quit following people that are feeding you a bunch of shite. Okay? Because that's what it is. And start looking to individuals who have a good track record of when they tell you something, it comes to pass, instead of just feeding you a bunch of crap to drag you along and pick in your pockets. All right, now I'm off my soapbox. Sorry.
Oh man, I loved it. I think that, you know, I like what you were talking about, the operations of wartime, because there's rules and a little bit of ethics, if you will, rules of play. And one of the things that is a strategy that we know many who've done is surrendering the birth certificate. And when you surrender during wartime, if they reject it, that's actually a high crime. It's actually a war crime. So when you're actively surrendering and you're saying, I'm not participating in war, when we declare and decree that I'm opting out of that game called war that has rules, that speaks leagues. And so that's a beautiful thing. When God spoke life into existence, we use the spoken word. We can speak what we want to create, and we can do other things too to create. But I thought it was so interesting because, okay, so let's say in my heart, my feeling is that Trump is of the light. Now, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But I was perplexed when, you see things like the gold fringe flag and you hear rumors that he's a state national, and then you read some documents and you think, well, maybe not, because why this and why that? So it gets the wheels spinning for sure, right? But this is great because this teaches all of us self-trust and developing what feels right. What are my instincts? Because in the law, instincts are recognized. So you get really in touch with your instincts. Like, what is this? And we can't know all the strategy. I mean, I'm not an expert in that area, right? So I'm sitting back and I'm watching the movie and I'm getting the popcorn out. But I've been kind of the thought that, hey, there was going to be like a big grand event. There was going to be the big reveal, or the big, EBS system was going to come active. And, I've been waiting on the sidelines. I've heard it so many times and I'm like, okay, I don't think that's going to happen. So because we're Americans in action, I'm like, well, what actions can I do to empower myself in the coming days? Maybe it's going to be a smooth, velvety transition rather than a big ta-da, right? So if it's a smooth, velvety transition, what can I do to be supportive of that? Well, I thought about this. When you become an American state national, you can literally opt out of the voting system. Now, hear me out, because a lot of people are like, what? I don't want to opt out of the voting system.
That's
Because
crazy,
that's my
Ananda.
only
That's
chance.
crazy talk.
I know, right? That's crazy talk, and that's my only chance. But check this out. What you can do is it's called a revocation of signature for cause. Okay, so you revoke your signature as a voter. Why would you do this? Because in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and Declaration of Independence, we're not voters, we're electors. And then you can repatriate. So you expatriate and then you repatriate. You opt in again as an elector rather than a voter. Now your vote counts for 4 counts. You want to bring power to the people? Take action to bring power to yourself, to your voice. And we can correct some things. We can step in and make sure that there's checks and balances. Like, I love the idea of having one Republican and one Democrat and one, libertarian overseeing the checks and balances and counting the votes. And then you've heard things too, because there's rumor that just going a little bit in a different direction, that DeSantis is part of the whole shit show and a traitor and all this. And I'm going, oh no, because what he was saying is that the Dominion voting machines, like, oh, we don't want to go back to the Stone Ages, and like they're modern and I'm like, wait a minute, you're going to excuse these like corrupted machines that are just flipping out votes and not counting each one? Anyway, so just so many thoughts floating through my head, but there's ways we can empower ourselves for the possibility of the big ta-da, the big reveal, or the possibility of a smooth, velvety transition. But we all know how the story ends. It's hashtag God wins, right? We all know that. The light wins. We are triumphing. It may be slow like molasses, or it could be a big, yeah, we got this. Woohoo!
Well, we're at this precipice where, all right, we have a World War III what you want to call a scare event that's taking place. All right. Russia launched a missile into Poland. All right. But it's by design. It's by design. All right. So Russia, by launching a missile into Poland, it actually, because Poland is part of NATO, right? Poland's part of NATO. And so basically what that means is they can exercise what is known as Article 5, which actually means if you attack one country that belongs to NATO, then all countries that belong to NATO can retaliate and will and must retaliate. You know what I'm saying? And so this is where we're at this event by design, again, to it's kind of like one of the last feathers in this hat that has to happen, so to speak. All right. It has to happen in order for certain things, because if you look at what's just happened in the last week, the exposure of FTX, the cryptocurrency that they were dumping all this money into, all those billions of dollars that Joe Biden and the Democrats that were sending over to Ukraine was going into FTX. All right. Well, guess what? It was all a big Ponzi scheme that blew up in their face right during the election time. They didn't think it was going to happen, but it did. All right. So their hand got caught in the cookie jar big time right now. So Biden really, or the actor portraying Biden, or the shadow government running Biden right now, is in some deep, deep water right now. And so there's no way they're going to get out of this. And if you guys look at optically, so yesterday, McCarthy, who was supposed to be in line to be on the Republican side Speaker of the House, well, he didn't get enough votes of confidence because he's a rhino. So now we have a vacated Speaker of the House seat because Nancy Pelosi's fired. All right. She's in foreign country, Gitmo. So she's not there. So there's a vacancy, and they can actually appoint anybody to sit in that seat itself. You don't have to be an elected official to fill the role of Speaker of the House. So this is really an interesting turn of events that is happening right now. Now, I know people are speculating, well, Trump could be put in as Speaker of the House. No, because if he's still currently commander-in-chief and president, 19th president of the Republic, then there's no way that he can be Speaker of the House. That's not how that's going to work. But he could put somebody in that capacity that he wants in that capacity as well. It's just fascinating to see the dynamics and how quickly things have changed. And yes, our country got taken advantage of again, right? We didn't know what was going to happen again. Nothing was fixed from 2020, so we knew this was going to happen again. And it's like I shared on my Telegram chat Sunday night. There were 7 states that were being closely monitored by the good guys. We'll just put it that way. And in real time, they have all the data that shows how all those elections were stolen. And you guys, going back to Pennsylvania, that Vetterman gentleman, I'm not going to trash this guy because this guy was playing his part in a sting operation. Because think about it. The Democrats go after the cream of the crop of the libtards. They really do. They're not going to put somebody that lives in mommy and daddy's basement that's 50 years old, living off a disability that can't even formulate a cohesive sentence. No. Sorry, it's just the way it is. But they will put a person in there who is a crisis actor. All right. So they put a crisis actor in that place to carry out that role so as to draw out all the shenanigans that the libtards and the Democrats will muster to try and put somebody into that capacity. And just so you guys know, Oz is no better than that guy. Trust me. Oz was not a good choice either. So, but that's the real things that are happening, guys. This is such an advanced tactical operation with precision timing that is taking place. It's absolute.
So I'm going to jump in here and kind of expand on one of the things that ML was talking about. ML and I were talking about before the show with this precision accuracy with this operation. So, you know, there's a very advanced plan behind all this, but not all the players who are fulfilling their role have any idea about the plan. And that goes for you and I, right? You know, I'm not in any significant position of authority or anything, but I am playing my role because not that I had this planned out ahead of time. You know, those who know my story and I've shared, none of this that I'm doing right now was my intention a year ago. It was not my plan to be here. However, when that opportunity opened up, and I found myself in surfer language, you know, I'm not a surfer, but I've talked to those who have. And when you find yourself in the sweet spot of that wave, the hair on the back of your neck stands up, you get goosebumps, and suddenly you know, this is what I've been waiting for all morning, this wave right here. And this moment in time, and we'll all have these opportunities throughout these timeline wars that we're in, where we will find ourselves at the right moment, in the right time, with the right tool in our hand, in the right company, surrounded by our tribe, where we can do exactly what we've been designed and prepared to do. And it is the very thing that is the genius behind the whole plan. And you have to look at it and say, now, how did this happen? Was it coincidence? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We are a part of a master creative plan that is beyond the consciousness that we think exists at this point, with the education and the indoctrination that we've gotten at this point. There is so much more consciousness that's behind this. And when you find yourself in that moment, when the hairs in the back of your neck stand up and you get goose pimples and you realize, wow, that is the plan. That is the opportunity, because it isn't Trump doing it for us, and it's not you know, some white hat behind a computer with, you know, thick glasses figuring out how he's going to beat this 4-dimensional game of chess. No, it's all of us in action. You know, Americans in action. It's exactly what it is. It's taking action at the right time, at the right place. And how do you know you're in the right time at the right place? It's what Christo said last time he was with us. Now. Be in the now.
Love it.
That's it.
I love it.
Yeah, we are the plan. We're our own heroes.
What?
Everybody's waiting.
We're the plan? Oh my
No,
God.
you're waiting for a hero?
You're
Come
blowing
on now.
my mind, Ananda. You're
We're
blowing
our
my
own
mind.
heroes. We're going to be the heroes of the universe. It's fun. Get a cape. I'm going to put a letter A on mine. Because we're going to be the superheroes that save the planet through love.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's not rhetoric. Guys, I really encourage you to do this, is go into the mirror tonight before you go to bed. You know, go into the bathroom and look yourself in the mirror and make yourself a promise to be the hero for the person looking back at you. You know, so much of society is designed to convince you that you are less than what you are, that you are, you know, it wants you to believe that you're trash and you're powerless, but you're not. And if you can make eye contact with that soul in the mirror and look into your own soul and make a covenant with yourself that I am going to be the hero for you, and I am going to fulfill every promise that I was put here on earth to do for you. You know, that's when you have this cosmic connection with your divine purpose, and you recognize yourself as being more than just the avatar that floats around as a victim of the circumstances that you're in, but you suddenly make connection with the divine purpose behind what your experience is here on earth, and you engage that infinite consciousness, and that's where God meets you, right in that now moment where you connect. So it takes intention though, because you can easily be pushed along as a bypassed, inactive, participatory, role in this. You can miss it. But if you take action and you take intention in engaging in what's going on and engaging yourself, holding yourself accountable, showing up for yourself, it takes both ways. When you do that, suddenly now you're in gear, and now things start to align, and now things start to make sense.
Absolutely. You're spot on. I want to share with you guys and the listeners, you guys know who the praying medic is? Have you guys heard of that individual, the praying medic?
I think so.
Okay. Well, he's a gifted man of God. He heals. He's a former paramedic. And when he was a younger paramedic, as they were getting their patients, transporting them to the hospital from the traumatic things that were going on, he would pray over them, trying to heal them, and he said it took him 300 or 400 times before healings started happening. And so he started healing these patients as they were transporting them to the hospital of, you name it, very traumatic situations. And he was healing them on the transport to the hospital. That's how he got the name, the praying medic. And so he started teaching other of Father's children how to tap into that part of them to be able to help heal individuals as well. So he is a spiritually gifted, insightful individual. But he said this. He shared this morning on his Telegram page. It's called The Precipice. He says, if you've been aware of institutional corruption for some time, you may feel like you can't go any further without lawless people being held accountable. It's understandable to feel this way, but the majority of the population isn't there yet. The average person is comfortable with the status quo. The inconvenience of having to wear a mask, take a shot, or pay a few more dollars for a gallon of gas did not move them to the precipice. The precipice is the point where the pain of continuing with the status quo is worse than the fear of what might happen if change occurs. Normies understand there is some corruption in government, but they feel it doesn't affect them personally. They're content to continue life as it has always been. Corruptocrats devise a system that allows them to pillage our wealth and control the thoughts of the masses while keeping us comfortable enough not to revolt. The majority of people are not yet at the precipice. If they were, citizens in the United States would be reacting like they are in Brazil. One day, gas will be $10 a gallon. There will be no bread on the store shelves, and banks will close. It's at that point, the realities of institutional corruption will hit the masses square in the face, and suddenly, millions of normies will be brought to the precipice. As Trump pointed out last night, things must get worse before they get better. It's the only way the masses will be awakened. And until their eyes are open, nothing will change. Was the hype necessary? It's unfortunate that many people got caught up into the hype surrounding last night's speech by President Trump. Initially, I was pissed about the hype. I thought it was unnecessary and it seemed destined to cause people to be disappointed. I expected last night's message to be an announcement that Trump would run for 2024. Such an announcement doesn't need hype. But in hindsight, I realized I missed the point of the type, and I didn't understand who the intended audience was. Trump wasn't talking to Anons and the MAGA last night. He was talking to the millions of people around the world who've never seen a rally or heard him speak for more than a few minutes. The hype was necessary. It was debate to get to the world's press to pay attention to the speech, and it worked. Last night, people were allowed to hear a coherent leader explain a plan, our country, and the world a better place, and compare him to a mentally incompetent, compromised globalist puppet. The disappointment some people feel is understandable, but we can learn a lesson. There is no disappointment without expectation, and we are the ones responsible for managing our expectations. We also need to remember that not all messages are for Anons and MAGA. That's spot on. That's spot on. Jason, you've been quiet. Why don't you chime in here? I want to hear the great thinking there. And I don't mind the chirping, so that's okay. Let your squirrels eat their nuts.
I thanks. I hope it's not coming from my phone, all that noise, but if it is, I apologize. I love what you were just saying
Jay,
right there.
because it went after you muted yourself, it went away.
Oh, okay. So anyhow, I was in the store today, and I was talking to a store manager at this particular store. It's a very big corporation store, and he's a friend of mine. And he was saying to me that he was offered a promotion to go to another big corporation store, but he's settled here with his wife and he's got a house and so on and so forth. He just got married. And he was telling me that because he's a friend of mine, he was telling me that in this particular corporation, the starting salaries for people in his position, like a manager or an assistant manager, are in the six figures. And when I heard that, I was walking around, I was going, it's pretty much of a miracle that we were able to get through the last 2 years, because the collective consciousness in the mainstream world with the working class, and God bless all of the people, the infiltration has been so great that you can offer someone at a big corporation six figures a year by design with fiat currency. And because they've created such a beautiful life for themselves within that matrix, they can acquiesce to wearing a mask. They can acquiesce to getting a jab because it's so entrenched within the world that they're living in. And six figures for an assistant manager position or an manager position in a big corporation is very enticing for people to swallow, as opposed to standing and learning the truth. So Babylon, by its very design, conscious design by those who designed Babylon, have created a world where those who want to exit out of her have to be so in connection with who they are and source energy, just like those who were invited to leave Egypt through Moses's guidance. 80% of them stayed behind because they were making six figures at a corporation, all analogy and pun intended in that sentence. And the reason why I think it's a miracle that we haven't gotten any worse than where we are to where people are rising is because I feel that the divine intervention, we were talking earlier today, Christo and the team, about during World War II, there was divine intervention. Otherwise, Adolf Hitler would have taken over the world. And even though it wasn't a big, prominent divine intervention from the stars, the matter was resolved. And as I was walking through the store today with my friend who was telling me this information, I went, everybody, because of the infiltration, could have all been jabbed. Everybody, because of the infiltration, could all be wearing masks to this day. Everybody, because of all the infiltration, could all be homeless or whatever the worst case scenarios are in a communist takeover. But because it's not that, and things have changed, even though things might get worse, I feel the divine intervention has already occurred, and it's still occurring. And we were talking to a friend today, and he was saying part of Trump's speech was that he can't go ahead and disclose everything to everybody all at once, because it would be like a fire hose waking people up from a deep sleep. But if you can gently wake them up, if you can gently, over a course of 2 years, eliminate a mask mandate through whatever divine orchestration, eliminate, people being forced to take a jab, eliminate certain people in office. And when I say eliminate, I mean remove peacefully or however it needs to be done. Because I'm just here for entertainment and educational purposes. That's all. I'm not violent and not belligerent. I love the world. So with that, having said all that, I feel like in World War II, the divine intervention has already occurred, and we can see it with different points of views, because now we're able to go into stores, we're able to do certain things, and people are waking up around Brazil and around the country and even within your own communities. So it's just a matter of, even though the scab has to heal and it might get worse, I feel that the divine intervention is already countering that, and we're going to see the beginning of a beautiful new earth over the next 4 to 5 months unfold before us. We just have to ride it out.
Yeah, the seed has been planted, and it's like the pandemic was a strange gift in a strange package, but it definitely forced the issue. So now the ones who are awake, we're like bulldogs. We got our teeth in and we're not letting go. And there's so much goodness we can create in simple ways in our communities, and doing live chats and all sorts of things, ways of getting information out, because they can't keep these lies going. I mean, there's just too much truth out there to squash it. And, you know, they're cockroaches, and we got a big giant flashlight. We're shining on them, and they're scurrying. They know their game is over. It is up. It's over. And the analogy I like to give is that the head of the monster has already been cut off, and we're just dealing with flailing arms. So there is goodness on the planet. There is God consciousness on the planet. And the ones that have been indoctrinated to keep working for the pizza shop, even though the pizza shop's been closed, we just got to deal with their cognitive dissonance and their craziness. That's it. Once we get through this, it's just going to be a little bit of cleanup, a lot of prayers, and holding each other's hair while we throw up, and, you know, that kind of thing. So I feel like we got this. We got this. And those who are already awake and already gone through the cognitive dissonance, we're going to be the way showers. We're going to be the trailblazers, and we're going to be able to hold the energy and ground the energy for people as they go through their own processes. We're going to be able to be patient instead of react. We'll be able to respond. Hopefully, we've got a little experience under our belts. You know what I mean? Hopefully, a little emotional maturity through life lessons, that we can really be helpful to people as they go through their own healing process. And we can be gentle with each other. If somebody didn't know and they went and got this, or, you know, even 1, 2, or 3, it's like, you know, that's trusting. That's trusting the ones that we hired, or we thought we hired, to do what we wanted as a proper GOD. We didn't know they were going to betray and turn and go after the dollar bill and not protect our rights and all this crap. So here we are. So now we're the cleanup crew. Cleanup crew, here we are.
Well, there's a question for you, Ananda. Healing by Intuition has a question. How would I approach medical facilities that are still requiring masks?
Oh boy. You know, when they're running their businesses, and you walk up and you say, you know, hi, I'm going to stand for my rights, and you've got the majority going like, yeah, just try it. I think the best approach for me, what I would do, is handle it administratively. I would put them on notice. They are breaking state and federal laws. They're discriminating against me. And what we've noticed in many of the affidavits that were getting pushed through, and actually seeing some wins with judges, the 2 things that were claimed, number 1 was discrimination, because we are still protected by the 1964 Civil Rights Act. That's legitimate, and you can refer to that. If they're discriminating against you for any reason, especially things like religion, I don't wear a mask because I feel like that's a degradation. I was made in the image and likeness of God. And for me to put a mask on is a degradation to my soul. And God gave the breath of life. So for me to breathe, if they're trying to, you know, limit my ability to breathe, that's against my religion, because I believe that breath is life, and that was granted to me by God. So religious is one of the sort of arguments, if you will, that stands. Discrimination is one of the arguments that stands. And then the third is, well, this was more for the inoculation, and that was for the fetal tissues that were used in the making of some of those products, because the use of fetal tissues and aborted matter, it goes against your religion by putting that in your body, or even considering that there was testing done in this way. So those religious views were being recognized in the courtrooms. Things like medical freedom actually were not being recognized by the judges, but discrimination and religious freedom were recognized. And a friend of ours shared with us, and I'd love to get this story. So if any listeners have this story, please bring it to the table. We learned that it was a Jewish man who came to, when the founding fathers were writing the First Amendment that included freedom of religion, it was a Jewish man who came forth and said, this is going to be very important in the coming days, that we need freedom of religion. Well, here we are now, and people trying to deal with going to visit a loved one in a hospital or going to get medical care, and they don't want to put the mask on or whatever they're requiring. And then what is being recognized? Our freedom of religion. That's amazing. That's a beautiful thing. That's a God thing. So hallelujah. But just knowing the right angle, you could do an affidavit or a notice, or just simply a letter and saying, hey, I'm putting you on notice. You're breaking state and federal laws. I need you to change your store policy or your medical office policy to be within the law, or I will be continuing to take action against you. And you can follow up. You can do all sorts of things. I mean, you could actually, if you're still in like corporate America and that whole thing, you can hire a lawyer and sue them. If you're standing as a free woman on the land, you can affidavit up and you file a claim against them. You can send them a bill for damages. There's all kinds of cool things you can do.
You can get their bond if they have a bond, like
oh
Cohen
yes,
did.
this is true.
Yep.
You know, very good.
Here's something very interesting that I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but since you mentioned this, I've approached several prominent MDs, doctors, and I said to them, this medical field is so infiltrated with the crazies, with the big pharma payoff doctors, you're not going to fix it. The only thing they have on every doctor is the license. So guess what? Like we did with several of our clients, several of the people that we are assisting, we are organizing a campaign for over 100 doctors to give their license away and create in the Republic their own true medical society.
Oh, wow.
That, if it happens, if we can get this done, will change the terrain dramatically. We don't need them. Plus, a letter of equity to the Communist Medical Board, who says that they have authority to tell me, a private doctor, what to do and what I can't do. No.
Right.
Exactly.
Your science is fake. Your science is incorrect. Your science caused death. So we're going to start our own. How do you feel about that, ML?
I think that's wonderful. This is what I'm talking about. This conference, this convention that we can do in March, this is a great springboard to get this out there, because people, this is the season.
Yeah.
This is the season.
Yeah.
People are being so affected in so many ways, financially, they're losing their jobs left and right, their investments. I have people contacting me all the time. What do I do with my investments? I'm like, well, if you got a 401k or a Roth, you know what? you're not making any money, so I would actually put it into silver or something of value that's going to build wealth for you, because right now our government is utilizing your sacred retirement funds to prop us up. And once that goes bye-bye, everything goes bye-bye. And these people don't know that. So
good point.
There's
You
actually
can
a program from a gold and silver company that teaches people how to take their 401 and change it into gold and silver.
I love that. I love that. And isn't it fun that we can take fake money and buy real money? I mean, that's like super fun.
That's a great I didn't think about that aspect.
I mean, seriously, it
Sounds
is
fair to
fun.
me.
Yeah, I went to my guy that I buy gold and silver from and offered him my fiat. He says, do you have any monopoly money? That's a little bit more valuable.
That's funny.
He was kidding, of course.
Of course. That's classic. That's classic. I love
You know, and I just want to go back to Healing by Tuition, who asked the question about the mask. I just want to share with you guys, when we were on our flight back from Pennsylvania, I thought the woman was going to die on the plane. It was such a horrible flight. This woman, I think she completely passed out, and it was like red alert on the plane. And then there was another woman in front, and everybody who was getting sick on the plane, you could feel like the panic through the whole plane. Everyone who was getting sick and like passing out, they were all masked. They were all wearing a mask. And I'm thinking, well, you know, if there's pressure or oxygen situation, they're already masked up. They're depriving themselves of precious oxygen.
Including one of the
It wasn't
doctors.
a surprise. It was not a surprise that it was the masked people that were passing out.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was shocking. We literally thought, oh my God, how many people are going to die on this flight? It was bizarre.
By the way, for Healing by Intuition, what we have done in the past for those who were discriminated against at a public accommodation for not wearing a mask, you can walk in with documents in hand. Like if they tell you not to come in or whatever, when I say documents in hand, go back out to your automobile and bring in the documents that you have planted there. And you can basically present the documents, and we have these in our book online that says on our website, Project Stay Open. We have a lot of that, and you can also contact us and we can give you templates. But literally you can go in and you can say, okay, in as much as you are denying me service here, I'd like you to put your name on this document. And basically the document is a list of all of the different laws, the different rules, the different statutes that they are breaking. And you can basically say, in as much as that you specifically are denying me, then you'll have no problem to put your name on this document stating it such. If they don't sign, then you go, what's the problem? Because if you're legit, then you'll have no problem signing this, because and they're going to know that you're going to pursue it further. Or we can continue to carry on with business now, and you can bring in the supervisor and all these things. So if you have documentation on your property, meaning your body, that you can present to them in that moment, then you are telling them no problem. Just put it here because you're liable. Anybody who tells you something to do or not to do from a place of color of law or assumed authority, then they're liable. Because if they tell you you can't come in here or unless you put on a mask, then my question would be, great. So if I put on a mask and I pass out and then I crack my head open on your property here, then you're going to pay for that, right? And you'll sign this document because you told me to put on a mask. Therefore, you're going to take full responsibility for that. We drafted up documents specifically with that concept to OSHA, and they went bye-bye. As a matter of fact, after we've been doing these documents locally and throughout the nation with OSHA specifically, they then put out in their documentation that, oh, by the way, we're not liable for you employers if you tell them to put on a mask and something happens. They literally put something out like that as a result of people like ourselves and others who are asking those questions of liability. You have to remember, because we're in commerce, because we are in Babylon, it's all about the money, the liability, the creditor or the debtor, right? So it really has nothing to do with your health. It has nothing to do with the morality, even though most everybody, I'm assuming on this particular ML channel and all of us on this panel are moral, loving, God loving men and women. So there's an intrinsic connection to morale. But don't be fooled that Babylon has that. They're there. It's a corporation, and the only objective of a corporation is to profit. So they really don't have your best interest at heart. However, you can use, and that's not saying everybody within the corporation is that. There are loving, good men and women all over, and it's from the fabric of divinity that the matrix was formed. So don't misunderstand me. But the construct of Babylon is all about liability, creditor, debtor, who's going to pay what. So the way you can capture leverage for your quote unquote justice is you hit them where it hurts, their pocketbook. And you basically say, well, if you're going to tell me to do this, then that means you're liable. And if you don't want to be liable, then you have no right to tell me to do this. And we can have this conversation with your manager. We can have this conversation with your supervisor. We can have this conversation with anybody, and we'll be happy to put it in documentation form, and everybody can sign away. How about that? And that has been proven to be successful time and time again, because it's all a bluff. And if it's growing up, my father was a big corporate dude, like a big consultant and businessman, and he always would say, "Put your money where your mouth is," that type of thing. And so, with that, you can say, well, if you're so passionate about your policy, then put your money where your mouth is, and that translates in Babylon. Put your name on this piece of paper that you'll be liable. Otherwise, what leverage do you have? Because a mandate is not a law. An executive order is not a law. A policy cannot override my unalienable rights. So there's so much that you can learn, and you can bring it forth to them on site, on location, very honorably, very peacefully, and in conversation and then just present them a piece of paper. Just see what they do. You would be amazed. That's how you can learn to stand and marry both these worlds of kingdom of heaven as you're navigating as a self-sovereign, living, breathing man or woman through this construct of illusion called Babylon.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful, Jay. And then I want to point out that if you go there with the paper in hand, the first time you step in the office, it will be seen as like a premeditated action. So, like what Jay was saying earlier, you want to keep those papers like an affidavit or a notice in your glove box or on your dashboard, handy, that if you do run into a situation where you walk up to the front counter and you're denied access or denied service because of their policy, which is unlawful and in violation of your rights, at that point, then you go back out to your car, get your papers, bring them back in. And you can, if they refuse to sign, it's okay. You can simply drop them on the desk and you make a note of it, because your word is your bond. If you have witnesses, even better. 2 witnesses, like, great. If you have an audio recording or a video recording, that's okay too. It's whatever you need to do to create your court of record. You always create your own court of record. So you're going to be keeping a journal of events. You write down what happened. If you can get their badge name or badge number, you write that down. If you can talk to the supervisor, go to their higher ups, and you can email them a letter and tell them your grievances. Or you can do it like Jay, with your papers right there handy, and go and put them on notice. It's powerful, because with the affidavit of truth, you're writing out the truth. The truth is they're breaking the law. The truth is they're violating your rights. The truth is they're withholding valuable services that you need as a consumer. You have the right to go in. Jason said public accommodation. They're supposed to, by law, accommodate you. because you have the right to go in and engage in commerce. Like it's so simple. And so when you bring that affidavit of truth, you're presenting the truth to them. It is the truth that sets us free. So whether they like it or not, they're going to have the truth in their face, and they're going to have to deal with themselves at the end of the day. And that's what Jay was talking about. We're developing our standing as we go. This is not fun. Not one of us signed up and said, yeah, I want to be the ethics police. But that's who we're having to be, because our rights are being violated. Our founding fathers warned us of this. And so anyway, I just bravo to you for asking such a wonderful question, because this kind of garbage is still going on. It's not just like, oh, okay, well, the lockdowns are over. Oh, well, the emergency's over, so it's not happening anymore. It's happening all over the place. So yeah, good for you. And we are going to need to learn how to develop our standing in the coming years. So it's going to be very important.
Very good.
Excellent.
And
I want to jump.
I want to give a shout out to Diane. Hi, Diane. She was with us at the Pennsylvania class, and I saw she was making some comments. And hi, it's fun. CB's daughter, you're amazing. Alex Wolf, thank you for being on here. All these wonderful people. I just feel so connected. It's such a feeling of family.
Yeah, excellent. I want to add two really quick points on what you were saying as far as more of the energetic aspect of this, because I've had some encounters as well with those gatekeepers at establishments. And the first one is, if we're going to that establishment specifically for health, and they are using as a screen, the mask or any type of requirement that we know goes against health, that is our first and beautiful sign to let us know that these may not be the best source of health. If we're going to get health and they are clearly not educated, why would we want to get into some type of commerce or agreement with that when we already know that they're coming from the wrong perspective and the wrong consciousness? One. Number two is oftentimes when we come encounter that gatekeeper, we're dealing with the wrong person. That person has been specifically selected for that position for their lack of consciousness. And so if we can find another point of contact to be able to have a higher level interaction where we are able to bring those documents that Ananda and Jason referenced, but we're able to bring them to somebody who is not there, who has already demonstrated their ability to be a useful idiot at a door standing guard, and we can go to someone who is going to be having a better awareness. So success that I've had in medical establishments is just by asking for a patient advocate. So if you come in contact, as soon as you're in contact with that medical establishment, they have on staff as a requirement a patient advocate. And this is somebody who is going to be educated in the Bill of Rights, in the patient's Bill of Rights, and they are going to have a position of being an advocate for your medical and your religious preferences. So we can immediately ask for them to be involved in the situation, and that takes they're going to have a higher authority, a higher education, and a higher decision-making process in helping to negotiate that situation. So I've had issues where they wouldn't let me come in because I wasn't going to wear the mask, and I asked for a patient advocate, and they brought someone out to the hall with me, and I talked with them, and I explained, and they said, my husband served in the military too, and we're right on board. We know what's going on in this country. We know it's not right. Let me see what I can do. And she went in, and 5 minutes later, I'm walking in with a big smile on my face and, no mask. And so sometimes just getting the right person involved in that situation is going to make a huge difference in how you're going to be able to move forward.
I love that testimony, because that's just proof in the pudding that remaining in honor in all of our actions will get us where we want to go. If we become belligerent and warlike, we will be presented with belligerence and war. So it's how are we going to behave when we're being tested? We know that they have trespassed against us. They're violating rights. They're offensive. it is sometimes you're just standing there and they're giving you the evil eye or going out of their way to make your life a living hell. And we're supposed to remain in honor? And the answer is yes. That's what you did that day by speaking to her from the heart. That's that essence over form, where you were able to achieve your goal through love and by sincerity of heart. Like, I just really need to get something done, and this is my experience. Like, bravo, that's a win. That's a win. I remember early on going up to Portland and going into a convenience store, and I was just going to get some bottled water, and I was literally shaking because I was surrounded by people that were heavily indoctrinated with the narrative, and they were absolutely against anyone going into the store not wearing a mask. And so I put myself on an experiential. I said, okay, I'm going in. I forgot a couple of my items, but I did get my water, and I got through, and I was shaking. I had my basket, and the woman says, "Oh, you can't come in here." And I kept walking with my basket. I said, "I'm here to shop peacefully, as is my right to do so." And I kept walking, and I got my water, and I went to the checkout. By the time I got to the checkout, I said it shaking, but I did it. As is my right to do so. And I go through the checkout. She got me a little box of Kleenex because she saw I was getting like shaken up. And then she elbow bumped me. And she goes, "You were the most gracious, nice," and like, she was proud of me, because I think a lot of people are afraid to do that.
Yep.
And so if you can be that light, and they say it's not the first one who stands that makes the difference, it's the second one who stands. So when you're there by yourself and you're alone and you're surrounded by sharks, like, be a pal. If you see somebody who's like that and you go and you stand with them, it's the second one who stands who makes the difference. So
Big time.
anyway, I got the elbow bump, and I
Well,
made it out. I made it out of the store alive.
I love
And
that. I
yeah,
love
and
that
these
story.
growing pains. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had an experience, I think I wore a face diaper twice during the whole 2 years, twice, because I refused to wear it. I refused to capitulate no matter what. So Menards, which is a large, like a Lowe's, home good or a home supply type of store, but it's a large place like Lowe's itself. And so Menards had a policy, and of course they're privately owned, so it's private property, right? So they had hired a rent-a-cop to make sure and ensure everybody puts on a face diaper. And if you didn't have one, you could pay $1 and buy one. So I just ignored the rent-a-cop and just do. And I had a son with me, so we just walked past him. And so I go do my shopping, and my son's like, "Dad, there's a guy following us." And it's a big guy. And I'm a big guy, but this guy's like way bigger than me. And so I said, "Just ignore him, son." And so we're just doing our thing. And this guy's like, "Sir, sir." So I know he's behind me, so I'm making him keep running after us. just kept ignoring the guy. So he eventually ran fast enough and stops me in front of my car. He says, "Sir, you cannot be in here without a mask. It's a mandate." And I said, "And who are you?" He goes, "I'm a store manager." I'm like, "Well, I'm not putting a mask on, so you might as well move out of my way." He goes, "It's our policy." I said, "I don't give a rat's ass about your policy." He says, "Can we go over here and talk?" And I was like, "Sure." So he brings me over to the customer service area where I'm in front of all the checkout lines. All right. And there were lots of people in the checkout lines. So he brings me over there. Bad tactical move for him. Good one for me. So we go over there. He says, "You can't be in here without wearing a mask." And I said, "Says who?" He says, "It's our corporate policy." I said, "Well, you're violating my constitutional rights, first and foremost." And he says, "I don't care about your constitutional rights. We're a privately owned company on private property, so we can tell you what to do when we want to do it." I said, "What did you just say?" And so he continued inserting that I have to wear this mask. And I said, "Well, I'm not going to wear a mask." And I said, there's no way you're going to force me to wear a mask. He says, then you need to leave this store. And I said, you're going to have to force me to leave this store. He goes, well, I'll call the police. I said, do it. I handed him my cell phone. I said, please call the police. And he says, you're making a scene. I said, so I turned to all the checkout line. I said, I'm making a scene. I said, you're violating my constitutional rights. And I said, oh, you cheap on the line, quit wearing your damn mask. This is why these assholes are doing this to you guys. Stand up for yourselves. And my son's like, oh my God. And so these people are like, oh, what is going on over there? And the guy's like, sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You're causing a commotion. I said, you're causing a commotion. I mean, I'm yelling at this guy. And so people are like looking at me. I'm like, that's right. Take off your damn mask. Stand up for yourselves. And people are like taking off their masks. They're like looking around. And I'm like, that's right. Take it off. You know, it's like one of those moments, right? And he's like, I'm going to call the cops on you. I said, please call the cops on me. Please. I'm begging you to call the cops on me. I'm just begging you to do this. And so, anyways, he goes, just go on and do your shopping. it was the
Yeah,
best moment for my son to
baby.
see that.
Love that. Love that.
That's great. That's great.
It's so beautiful because when you stand like that, you become a light to everybody around you, and that's part of what it was. And we all have stories. I agree. I think I wore the mask, or not even a face diaper, a scarf, once or twice the entire time. And one time, and this was actually something that Christo suggested I do, if I was ever in a situation. So one time I went into a store in our county and I did shopping, and let's just call it a store where you would pay $1 to get an item, and then they call it a store. So I would go into that store, and sometimes they call it $1 with a tree around there, but I don't know. Anyhow, I went to that store and I collected 20 items without a mask on at that time. And I went to the checkout, and they said to me, you can't pay for these items unless you put on a mask. And I said, well, that's not true. And I had some dialogue with them, and similar to what you were saying, ML. And Christo says, if you're ever in that position, put the money on the counter and walk out. And I said, no problem. So I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to buy these items. I have 20 items here. I put the $20 bill on the counter, and I walked out. By the time I got out to my truck, there was a sheriff there, and then another sheriff, and then another sheriff. And so I said, this is going to be fun. So they came out and they said that we got a call because you were shopping or whatever without a mask, blah, 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 blah. And I said, no. And they said, you were stealing items. I said, no, I left them $20 on the counter. You can count the items in my bag, and you can see that I've paid for them. So there was no stealing. And by the way, I don't have to wear a mask, and so on and so forth. So the cops started telling me, and these were sheriffs, they said, this is our first call ever about a mask, which led me to believe that the entire county, with the exception of a few people, were capitulating. And so I decided to educate them. And I started talking with them, explaining to them about the law, explaining to them about public accommodations. And then I negotiated with them. I said, here's what's going to happen, officers. Because remember, they were sheriffs and they work for us. And also, I wasn't breaking any law. And they're there to protect. I said, really, Sheriff, there's a few things that have to happen. A, she trespassed against me, so you can go ahead and cite her for trespassing against me and my constitutionally protected rights. Or B, if you want, you can go back and take these bags and you can use that $20 that I left there, because they said that the reason why they couldn't take it because they couldn't do the inventory because they didn't ring it up. I said, well, Sheriff, that's not really my problem. But if you want to make it go right, then you could go ahead and take my cart back in, and you can use that $20 that I left out on the counter, and she can ring it up, and then I'm going to take my purchases. Or you can tell her that we're free to go. but you now have the choice to make this happen, because otherwise I'm leaving, because there has been no crime committed. And but I want to make this a peaceful resolution. So what say you, Sheriff? He says, I'll tell you what, hold on right here. So the three of them started talking. One of them started talking with me, and he was saying, well, what's going on? Why aren't you wearing a mask? I said, because I don't have to, and it's against my religious beliefs, that and so many other things. So then I started talking with him about religion, and he ended up telling me that he's a Christian, and we started talking about biblical stuff, and he started liking me. Another guy was really taking an open heart and ear to what I had to say, and he was like, wow, this is really making sense. The third sheriff came out and said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do your idea. We'll count the products. We'll go pay for it with your $20, and then we'll get a receipt if you want it. And he counted the items, and it was funny. There was 18 items in the cart. And I said, guess what, Sheriff? Keep the $2. So he came out, and he gave me my bag, and he said, thank you so much. Be on your way. And that there was peace. And he says, I don't need the $2. So he gave me the $2 back. And he said, thanks for the education. We exchanged cards. And then he said they would like for you not to come back here. And he was going to try to trespass. And I said, well, thank you, Sheriff, but I appreciate that communication. And I will take that to heart. However, it's not really a trespass. So I've been back to that store many, many times without any issue. But the point was that it was resolved. They left. I got my product, and nobody forced me to do something I didn't want. And the sheriffs complied and made it go right, because I said, we all want to keep the peace, right, Sheriff? Because that's what you want to do, and that's what you're hired to do. So let's keep the peace, and let's make it go right so everybody wins. And they were all over it. And then we went out, and we were on our way. So it's a beautiful thing when everybody knows how to stand, however they're going to do it, and people will resonate to the truth. It doesn't matter if they have a badge on their costume or if they're an employee in a store or whatever it is. It's the truth always prevails.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I have to bring up the time when I was less than honorable, just to show that, hey, it's a growth process. This was before the convenience store. And I went up to US Cellular, and I went in. I was going to look to inquire about a new cell phone. I go in, and the guy's like, hey, you can't be in here. You got to put a mask on. I was like, I choose not to. Thank you, though. Thanks for the suggestion, but I'm opting out. And, I'd like to find out about cell phone coverage. And he's like, no, seriously, you need to leave the store or put a mask on. And I was like, are you seriously going to discriminate against me? And he started coming towards me, and then another one and another one. It was like 3 big dudes. I was like, really? You guys are going to gang up on me like I'm some criminal? I said, this is absurd. And all the people in the store turned with their masks on, and they're like, you need to get out of here. And I yelled at the whole store. I go, you're all participating in communism. Mark my words. And I left, and I flipped them off as I drove off in my truck. So, we're not always exemplary in our behavior, but it was something. It was what I used at the moment with the tools I had at the moment. And it was from my heart. So, it was authentic. Let's just say that. But, there were higher ways that I could have chosen how to handle that. And I didn't go back with my notice at that point. But what I did do at that point is I went to another place, and I didn't use their company. So when I did get my new cell service, I went with another company. So, little things like that, like not supporting their business, that's a big thing. And then I could have gone farther and then written a letter and done a notice and all that. But we have to pick and choose, because it feels like sometimes like you're surrounded. It's like, oh my gosh, like there's jerks everywhere, and they're all breaking the law all at once. So sometimes you feel like you're the only one standing, and then you just have to pick and choose. Okay, what am I going to do? What's important? And what do I need to do for me, for my well-being? So,
hey,
Yeah.
ML,
Yeah.
what's the latest from the Pleiades?
I don't know. Why don't you tell me?
if Have you gotten any messages or downloads, ML?
No, I have not. Nothing that I can share at this moment, not on a public forum like this. Let's put it that way. That's something we'll have to have in a private conversation.
Okay, so be it.
Yes.
I
have
had-
to share something with you,
Okay.
Ananda, and guys. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was at a Bass Pro shop when COVID was hitting and doing the same thing. They're mandating the mask. So I'm thinking, what can I come up with when I walk into that store of a pre-existing medical condition so I don't have to wear the mask? So I'm going to come up with some good stories. So I brainstormed about this and I thought about this, and my wife and I came up with something kind of funny, and I used it and it worked. And so you guys know what, halitosis is, right? It's bad breath, right? Well, we came up with the spinoff. We call it halacitosis. It's butt breath. But when you say halacitosis, people are like, whoa, what's that? So we went into a cellular store, and so they have signs posted everywhere. You can't come in the store without wearing a mask. It's all over the place. So I walk in the store because I needed help with my cell phone. I was having issues. And not the store manager, but this young kid was saying, sir, you can't be in here without a mask. It's our policy. It's a city policy and blah, blah, blah. I said, well, I actually have a pre-existing medical condition. And so the city ordinance states if I have a pre-existing medical condition, I don't have to wear a mask. He goes, well, what is your pre-existing condition? I said, well, you're violating my HIPAA laws, actually. I said, so I don't have to tell you that. He goes, just a minute, sir. So he goes and gets his manager, and his manager's, this 25-year-old kid. He goes, sir, we have a store policy and the city ordinance says blah, blah, blah. I said, well, the city ordinance also says, as I told this guy, if I have a pre-existing medical condition, I don't have to wear a mask. He says, well, I need to know what your medical condition is. I said, are you seriously going to violate my HIPAA laws? He goes, well, sir, that's the only way I'll know for sure whether or not you're telling me the truth or not. Because if I let everybody come in and tell me that, well, I said, fine. If you really need to know, I said, I have a serious medical condition, and it's called halacitosis. And the kid that helped me, he goes, dude, that's serious. I know all about that. I'm like trying not to laugh. And I'm like, I can't believe this kid's going with this. I said, all right, I'm going to roll with it. And so the manager steps back. He's like, okay. He goes, is it contagious? I said, very contagious. So you don't want to get close. He goes, well, how do you contract halacitosis? I said, have you ever heard of a cranialectomy? He goes, a cranialectomy? I said, yeah, that's an operation. I said, halacitosis is a byproduct that you get when you have a cranialectomy. He's like, is that serious? I said, deadly. He goes, okay. He goes, you don't need to wear a mask. It's all good. And I'm just busting up laughing. He goes, cranialectomy, is that a real procedure? I said, yeah, people got to have cranialectomies all the time. They got to pull their head out of their asses, and that's how they get halacitosis. The dude was just busting up laughing. He says, that is so good. Can I use that? I said, yeah, it's free. Go ahead. It's free domain. Take it and run with it.
Oh, beautiful.
That's funny.
Oh, yeah.
Any of your audience have any questions?
Oh, well, they're all laughing right now.
Yay!
Oh, my gosh.
I love the show so much because we never know what's going to come out of our own mouths. Like, it is hilarious. I never know what you guys are going to say.
Oh, my God.
And it's just an adventure. It's like a magic carpet ride. There's
Let's
so
see
much
here.
joy because it's like, okay, if we're talking about the law and standing for our rights, it can get so serious.
Yeah.
And it can get very heavy and it is emotional. But at the same time, it's like, we're playing. We're still like being creative and having fun through this maze of chaos.
Yeah.
By the way, on that note, during the time when they were forcing masks, there were really good people that when I would walk into a store without a mask on, they would approach me and go, bro, you need to wear a mask unless you have a medical condition. And if you tell me you have a medical condition, then I'll have to leave you alone. So I need to tell you, you need to wear a mask. I said, oh, bro, I got a medical condition. He goes, oh, okay, then I'll leave you alone. There are really good people like that who would love to see us coming in without masks, because that would inspire them and they would say things like that.
So true. So true. Yep. So true. Oh my goodness. I haven't shared that story for a while.
That's hilarious, ML. Seriously, that's a good one.
I've never used it since that time. That was like the only time I ever got to really use the full joke. Oh my goodness. Oh boy.
You know, what's rewarding is that when we got back from Pennsylvania, well, actually before we left, we had 3 people come and say, you know, I really didn't want to come to this thing, but I was coerced. And he pointed to his friend and he said, now after this, he goes, oh my goodness. He says, if I knew what this was, I would have been here with bells on, but this I know is going to change my life for the better. And we thank you very much. And we got a 5-minute standing ovation there. And we're so happy to have that and to get that feedback from the people that we work with and the workshops that we do. So we're just blessed in that way, and God blesses us all. Yeah. Laurie has a question, I think.
Yep.
Do you want to read it, Emma?
Yeah. If I become an American state national, would I have less legal rights for my children versus the other parent?
I'll start, and then the rest of the gang will come in. You actually don't have any rights for your children when it comes to the admiralty laws, because you're a ward of the state, and you don't own your property, you don't own your house, you don't own your business, and you don't own your children. Now, you must realize in the law or legalese, in the court system, they consider your children as property. So when I say property, I'm not being, I hope I don't offend anybody. That's how they discuss what children are. And that's how Child Protective Services, CPS, that's how they take your children. And the judge stands for on their side all the time because they actually own them. So when you become a state national living in the private and you bring your children along with that, guess what? They can't touch your children. You want to go on with that, Ananda and Jay?
Yeah. So it's very interesting. So through the birth certificate swindle, where the state claims jurisdiction over you or your children, through the unlawful conversion of your family name being put into the all caps name. And when they do that, they're claiming to be the parents of the child, and you end up being a pair who rents your children from the state who owns them. You're a pair who rents. I know it sounds disgusting, but what happens is in their system, it's all about ownership, right, of property. So as Christo said, the children would be the property in that case. But when you are not an American state national and the state still recognizes you as the all caps name, they claim to have jurisdiction over you. And in court matters, which means you're owned, you're a slave to the system until you rebut their claims, their false claims against you, and you exit. But when you're in the system, and let's say you get married with a license, so you're married under the government, not under God, that government oversees the marriage. But this is the hierarchy of things. It goes government, husband, then wife. And so it would be the husband has a higher jurisdiction than you in their legal world. So the courts generally favor the fathers the men, because the women are seen as chattel property. It's really gross. But when you exit and you say, I'm not a slave, my body is mine, I'm a child of God, I'm not to be owned, I'm not property, I'm not a legal fiction, and so on. So when you exit, you become an American state national. Guess what you do when you do that? You claim the right to your property. You claim your property. You say, my body is mine. I was created by God. The state doesn't own me. And in addition to that, I'm claiming my other property, which are my offspring. So the state often uses the word children. In the private, you might want to change your language to use the word offspring or my property. Even though it does sound a little grotesque to refer to your children as your property, if somebody's going to claim them as property, it better be you. You know what I mean? Because the state can come in and do whatever they want. If they deem you to be an unfit mother, then CPS can come in and take the children, and they can do it actually lawfully because the children are actually wards of the state. That's why they were born in a birthing ward. And the whole thing is, it's a big connect the dots sort of deep dive when you learn this stuff. But it's so valuable because the more that you connect the dots for yourself and you figure this stuff out, you realize that you can protect your children, you can claim your rights, your property, your body, and your children, and have higher jurisdiction and higher standing than an ex-husband, possibly, unless he knows this stuff and he's going into the American State National world. But guess what that world is? That's a world of fairness. That's equity and ethics. So there will be ethical outcomes with fairness.
As a matter of fact, we've had 3 cases where there was a pedophile husband and he took her to court, and the court system in all 3 cases, even though there was evidence of pedophile abuse, husband to child, gave jurisdiction to the husband because of what Ananda just pointed out. It's the husband that has the ruling and the woman comes second. So you must realize that if you have children, in case any of the crazy would come up, and you got to know that if you go to court in that situation, unless, of course, you start to use trust law, and that's what we do. We actually assist people into standing, not defense. I just want to make a comment again. The court system is set up, and the bar court system set up, that if you defend yourself in any way, you just made yourself guilty, and they will railroad you. So it's not about defense. That's part of the admiralty law, commerce, bar courts. It's about who you are and how to stand. And standing is completely different than defense. So just realize that. And if you want more information on that, begin to really get that, especially if you're in dire needs of it, go to americansinaction.info. There's a lot of information on there. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Also, let me do this for you real quick, guys. It's a plug for you guys. So those that are listening, they have a thumb drive that gets you started in this process itself. And what you're seeing down below in that banner is a special link that they created for our listeners here in our family, where you guys can have access to purchasing that thumb drive at a 20% discount. And so, I've had people ask and inquire about that. So I've sent that out. As soon as Ananda sent that to me a few days ago, I've been sharing that on my wall every single day and sending that out to other individuals that have been inquiring about it. So for those individuals, like I said, that are interested in that, there you go. And you can get that also over at the my main Telegram channel. We post it there. So there's a direct link there that you click on, and it'll send it right over to their page, to their shopping cart checkout page itself.
Yeah. And that thumb drive is one of the best ones that we ever did. It was in Asheville, North Carolina, and it was amazing. And the information on that thumb drive is life-changing. So thank you, ML. This is amazing that you do that. Appreciate it so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. It's such an honor. And then the discounted price is really nice also. It's such a nice offering for your viewers. And then the The state national, yes, you can go that route. Another route, let's say you're already in kind of over your head and you're all lawyered up and you're having to deal with going to court and things like that. It'll depend at where you're at during your phase of things. Another strategy, if you were still in the system as it exists and you have a lawyer, you would, or even if you're standing on your own, just within the system, if the husband is found to be an unfit father, drug addiction, mental problems, that sort of thing, then they would favor the mom. So you got to kind of weigh it within yourself, what feels right, and pray about it. And then take your next step after getting most of the information that you can come up with that you think, okay, this might be a good option. This might be a good option. This might be a good option. And kind of weigh it within yourself and then talk with your people and then come to your conclusion. But I don't want anyone jumping into something that they're not ready for, and like learn the stuff to the best of your ability. And sometimes we do put the cart before the horse. You might have a strong feeling or notion like, oh no, I have a really strong feeling I'm supposed to be an American state national. Trust that, whatever it is for you. And nobody's judging anybody here because we're all trying to find our way right now. You know what I mean? And it's just, that is something that really has worked well for me in my life. I feel this feeling of empowerment. My friends notice I'm standing taller. I have more zest for life. I get up earlier. I kind of got that pep in my step again. And it's ever since I changed my status and became an American state national. Because before that, I just felt in apathy and oppression.
Jay, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. Ditto to everything. And in addition to that, again, I want to reiterate what Ananda was saying. In their world, you don't have children, you have offspring. With your offspring, you can place your offspring in a trust because they're your property. They came from you. That which creates controls, that which creates owns. So if you and your spouse created a offspring, then you own that unless you volunteer to give them away. So in that volunteering to give them away, you didn't really give them away, you gave the name away, because they can only exist in the legal fiction on paper. But the actual property, the living, breathing little boy, little girl, son, daughter, you can take a picture of them and say, this is my property. And I have proof of it. They don't have pictures of that, right? Now, in the repudiation process, you, the parents, and for lack of a better term, just go with the language that we all can comprehend for context, the parents of the offspring, unless the offspring is older than 8 years old, you, the parents, still have authority, so you can claim them on your repudiation process. If they're older than that, you can educate them, and as a guardian, you can help them draft up their own repudiation process, and at 7 or 8, they can go reclaim their own minor estate and begin their process with administratively, and therefore they're outside of that jurisdiction as well. So there are many different ways in which you can apply administratively, legally, and lawfully, so that you can navigate through Babylon as you're living in Kingdom of Heaven, so that your family, your heirs, your sons, your daughters can be whole with you. And we can help you with all of that. Just know that there's a lot of different ways to go about doing it. But the main thing is, nobody can own anything unless there's an agreement. There's a title, there's property. And that can only exist through acquiescence between a contract or a trust. But all of that has to be consensual. And unless it's consensual, it's null and void. And through that repudiation process, you're basically saying, hey, Santa Claus doesn't exist anymore. And I realize that. And I'm putting that on a piece of paper to let you know that I'm not contracting with that anymore in this particular area. And that could include your offspring.
Very good. That's great news. That's absolutely great news. Let's see here. Somebody has a question. Is it important to get an MCO? If so, what's the best way? I
I
don't know what an
volunteer.
MCO is.
I volunteered Jason to answer that question.
I've just on live ML. I was just offered a contract by my teammate here, and I will accept it. Okay, so now we've created a contract live, so everybody can see how that works. MCO is a manufacturing certified certificate of origin. Usually it's for an automobile, or in this case a vehicle, but we travel in automobiles. There are several ways to go about doing it. Traditionally, when you're going to go purchase your automobile at the dealership, they should have the MCO. And prior to purchasing that automobile, we would recommend, for educational entertainment purposes, we would recommend that prior to signing on any contract, you can say, please include the MCO. I'm happy to purchase this product from you, but with the condition that you include the MCO, and the transaction won't transpire until I receive that MCO. Another way about doing it is they want you to pay off the entire purchase. So if it's a $30,000 automobile, you pay $30,000 at some point, and now you have ownership of it. You'll get a certificate of title, which isn't the actual title. It's a certificate of the title. If you're going through the corporation to register it, then you can say, I have the certificate of title, and now you go back to the manufacturer, because it's a manufacturer certificate of origin, and you have to back up and go to the dealership and say, hey, I need the certificate of origin. And you have to do this administratively. There's a lot of different ways you can do it, and we can help the administrative process. This is the overview. And will they give it up? Well, hopefully they will. If they don't, then that's another administrative process. That's why we always recommend, prior to going into any transaction or deal, you place all the terms on the table, including but not limited to the MCO, which would be a deal breaker if you don't have it. You might even be able to, haven't vetted this yet, but in theory, you might even be able to, even if you're financing the car, to say part of the financial condition would be, I want the MCO, because technically they want you to have the vehicle fully paid for. Otherwise, they're not going to give you the manufacturer certificate of origin. And there's reasons for that, obvious reasons for that. But it could work if you put it in the deal and say, hey, I want the MCO after I pay it off or before I pay it off, so on and so forth. Then you can also contact the manufacturer directly and bypass the dealership and see what they say with that. So there's a journey that you have to go to find it, and it's working backwards, like looking for a title to a property. But that's how you do it. And once you get it, then you basically own the vehicle outright, and it's no longer the property of another entity.
Why would somebody want to do that, Jay?
Because it's important to have good questions on ML, and so that's why they would ask it. That's why somebody would want to do it. But in addition to that, when you just know this, when you're in the Babylonian construct, the corporation, everything is owned by the corporation through your consent. When you register, Reggie is to give up your rights to the Queen, and the corporation was created by the Queen, England. So everything within the corporation is owned by the corporation. When you get your MCO, when you get your actual title, not a certificate of title, when you get your allodial title, when you get your patent, all these things, you become the actual owner right? The actual owner of the property, and you're therefore protected under the Constitution, let alone your God-given rights, right? So you're going to want to be able to say, I own this, and here it is in my hand, the documents to prove it, that this particular property is mine, and therefore I'm not a subject to the queen or subjected to the corporation because I have my MCO, or I have my title, or I have my allodial title.
actually become king, queen in living in the private in that way.
100%.
And this is what a lot of people aren't used to. We're used to acquiescing to the control of the government, big government, and living in the private is actually being self-responsible and standing in the kingdom of heaven in any situation. That's the only way the republic is going to come back, is each and every one of us needs to be courageous and tenacious and make this happen. Live in the private, get your MCO, whatever you need to do. In addition to that, some of you know this, but just to mention it, because you're saying that corporation owns anything. When you register, like Jay was saying, when you register anything, you're giving up your rights to it in actual fact. But the main thing is that when you actually get a license for anything, that's what they have over you. When you get married and you register it, you think it's an application. It isn't. You're actually marrying the state. You don't marry each other. And that's how it's stated on your marriage license. So it's the woman marrying the state, the man marrying the state, and they leave God out of it. So a lot of people, in realizing this, send back the license, don't want it anymore, and they do their ceremony of marriage utilizing the Bible, and they put their vows in the Bible, and it's a very, very beautiful ceremony in the private, as it should be.
Yeah,
And then
that's powerful. Jay, please, and then when you're done, I've got a cute little story to share. It's short.
okay. And then once you have all your property, you just go back to what the quote unquote wealthy elite do. You own nothing and control everything. Therefore, trust. Because you're going to want to find a way, and we help with this, and you do your own research on all this, but you want to protect your assets and keep everything private, right? So once you have everything, all your ducks in a row, put it private. And one way to do that is through multiple trusts and so on. So that's just another thing I wanted to throw out there.
Yeah, I like that. So once you own your property, you have the title, you can place that property into trust. And here's a great example of how that can work in your favor in practical application. So I had a rental car and was traveling in my private capacity in my private automobile in Las Vegas. And I got pulled over for phone in hand. When I got pulled over, I decided to use some of my new language, my new law language. And I said, you know, I'm a woman and I'm in my private capacity in my private automobile. And the officer demanded a license and registration. I wasn't quick to offer that up because I knew that it wasn't necessary. I was within my rights to not offer it. That was a choice I made at that moment. Really ticked him off. And what was interesting is he goes, license and registration. He said it again. And I said, well, I'm sorry, you know, I'm a private woman. I'm in my private automobile in my private capacity and I'm just traveling. And so he goes, well, don't worry about it. I'll just look up the VIN number. So he goes and he writes down the VIN number of the rental car in the front window. And when he writes it down, he comes back and I hear him and he says, I can't do anything with this. This car is in trust. So I just start under my breath. I started giggling because I was like, oh, they can't tow the truck away because it's not registered. When you register something, you're literally giving it away. So when you register it with the state, you're giving it the car to the state. That's why the officers can tow it away. And I learned right in that moment, I went, oh my goodness, it's in trust. They can't touch it. You become untouchable because everything that's held in trust is protected by the trust. And that's God's highest jurisdiction is trust. That's why we say when you enter into the private, you put your most valuables in trust. How beautiful. Anyway, I ended up giving him a driver license, but I wanted to try out some new things. And then he gave me a citation, and then I rescinded it within 72 hours, which is he was offering to contract, and then I rescinded it within 72 hours. And that's any offer to contract. You can do that and be within the law to do that, as long as you haven't broken any laws. Okay. So anyway, it's really powerful stuff. And hallelujah, you put your car in trust, nobody can tow it away. It can't get impounded. Or if they do, wow, now they've got some major issue, because that's a breach of trust and a huge violation. They're way outside of the law when they do that at that point. So there's a lot of things to help us to get stronger in the private.
Wow.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Woo-hoo!
Well, it's 2 hours, and so time flies by, I'm telling you, I look forward to our meetings like this. I really do. It keeps me going to the next week for sure.
So do we.
Me too.
It's
Thank
awesome.
you.
It's a family affair.
It is. It is. Yeah, it is. Oh, wow. Well, I forgot to say, so we've been doing a fundraiser. It's called a Crisis of Honor. And let me see here. There we go. So anyways, we've done really well. We launched it last Friday. We set a goal to raise $7,500. I think we're at $6,300 or $6,400 right now, which is amazing. So I'm actually going to be making a video. I'm in the process of actually creating a video that I'll be sending it out, sharing it, and stuff like that. We have homeless veterans during the wintertime, and this is what we're trying to do is provide them, at least during the wintertime, an alternative place for shelter, clothing, food, stuff like that. So there are two particular veterans that are in the story on the crowdfunding page that we're helping out, as well as some veterans in my local area as well. So anyways, everybody, I'm grateful for all of the contributions that people have made thus far. What's touching to me is I've had several people reach out to me who have no money whatsoever. And I told these individuals, I don't expect somebody that doesn't have any funds to do this, because I don't want them to put themselves in a deeper hole. But, amazingly enough, there are beautiful souls who gave their last $5 and $10. People that are on the verge of losing homes, not being able to pay power and electricity bills, but they feel that they want to honor the men and women who served us with valor and uniform as well. It really was emotional for me the other day about that. So it's just beautiful. So I'm grateful for people helping and assisting these veterans. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. Anyways, so is there any imparting thoughts that anybody wants to share before we go tonight?
I just
I
want to
think
say
it's a
thank you.
journey that we have to allow the experience of it. Stay true to yourself. Allow all your feelings to come forth. Don't deny anything. Don't forget, when you become one with any feeling, it melts away and love remains, because that's what we are. The essence of our beingness is absolute unconditional love. And it's only the bar mind that causes the conflict within. And so whenever you have a thought that's negative in any way, just acknowledge it, because when you acknowledge communication, and that's communication, it ends it, it stops it. Thank you for that thought, but I choose love.
I love it.
Got it. So I'm just want to say that to you because I feel the kingdom of heaven. It is starting to bubble so wonderfully. And yes, we're going to go through a little craziness, but that's okay. God's in charge. And you know what? We're going to do it. And this world is going to be so amazing. We're really going to experience a kingdom of heaven for sure. So be it.
So
So
be
be
it.
it. Oh, I love it. All right, everyone. Well, thank you. We love you guys. Thank you for watching us again. We appreciate you all so very much.
Love
Ah,
you.
someday we'll all get to meet in a short order and
Yeah,
have
that's going to be fun. We'll have to make that one day about 2 weeks.
That's about right.
That's right.
I love it.
Yeah,
Okay,
we gotta have
everyone.
a cookout. We're gonna have a big feast. We're gonna break bread together. And
There you
it's gonna be such a glorious, glorious time.
You're so funny, Ananda. You bring all celebration to food.
I'm a
What's wrong with
foodie. I'm a
that?
foodie all the way. He
Nice.
knows.
Hey,
Yeah.
blessings to you all. We love you.
Blessings.
We love you. We love you. We'll see you again very soon.
Yeah.
See you soon.
Love
Bye,
you.
guys.
Bye.
Love you
Love
all.
you.
I did it, Cohen. I did it.